Good evening, Happy New Year, and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. This newscast, we will look back on some of our more artistic stories from the past year. Now, murals are adding vibrancy and culture to the city of Terrace in northwest BC. A collective of artists known as Raven Tequera finished their latest mural, hoping it sheds light on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
We talked about just doing one wall, and then we got together and said, no, let's paint the whole building, and let's make this building, when people walk by it, they need to say wow, and they need to come in and they need to have a look at it, and that will foster conversations with a variety of people about what it's about and bring the issue forward.
Dave Gordon is president of the Skeena Salmon Arts Festival Society, a non-profit behind the latest mural going up in Terrace, BC. This one is at the Cromody Friendship Centre. They receive part of their funding from Heritage Canada and BC Arts Council. A collective of artists known as Raven Tequera are painting the building. Amanda Hugon from the Stolo Nation wants the mural to start a conversation about MMIWG.
To be part of this, to bring the awareness, to share that conversation, to bring that up even for the people that might not be aware that it's happening. It's nice to share that and show that through the artwork, to share that story, just to bring the awareness, to make sure that we're all watching out for each other.
Travis Hebert, a Cree Métis artist who grew up in the Northwest, is also part of the collective that has been painting murals around the Northwest.
First joined the collective called Raven Tequera, and that was my first time doing like a big mural back in 2018 in Terrace. So here we're on our 6th mural as a collective, and it's been amazing.
Their work touches on topics that the group wants to highlight in the community.
We also have the LGBTQ2S+. It's representation, it's visibility, you know, and it feels good. It feels like, you know, the times are changing. And
Raven Tequera say they receive positive feedback over the murals they created. The MMIWG mural, painted on the Friendship Centre, will be complete in about 3 weeks. The art is becoming an attraction for tourists. Hugon says it's rewarding when people come and share the impact the art is making on them.
But they're saying like who they are, where they're from, and what it means to them to see this, where a lot of them have been ripped away from their culture, and we feel like they're adopting this as this is what they know, this is what they see, this is what they want to be part of.
Skeena Salmon Arts Festival has been working with the Terrace Downtown Improvement Society. They are completing 5 other murals with other artists by the end of summer. Gordon wants to keep working with artists until every wall is painted.
We need reasons for people to come into our downtown, and murals and art are a great way to do it. All of this art celebrates our sense of place in the Northwest, our culture. So if you're not from here, you can come here and you can go around town and get a feel for who we are.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Terrace.
A well-known Alaskan master carver in the Yukon helped a First Nation in the territory carve a traditional Tlingit canoe. As Sarah Connors tells us, there's more behind this impressive canoe than just beautiful woodwork.
In Hanks Junction, the smell of cedar fills the air. After 2 months of work, this 30-foot-long dugout canoe is being turned right side up. It's cause for celebration. This is Alaskan master carver Wayne Price's 13th dugout. He was hired by Champagne and Ajiac First Nations to teach the ancient Pacific Northwest Coast art form to a handful of apprentices. The red cedar was sourced from Prince Wales Island in southeast Alaska. It's estimated to be 450 years old.
The western red cedar gave its life for us to take it, bring it here, carve it, and work on it, and give it a new life.
These dugouts are a source of healing. Several years ago, Price struggled with addictions. During his recovery, he says the Creator told him to make healing dugouts.
The Creator said, as we're carving the dugout, each chip represents a life we've lost to alcohol and drugs in Indian country. And of all the chips that come off the dugout, there won't be enough.
Price says this dugout is healing for those struggling with addictions, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the discovery of children's graves at former residential school sites. He says this wood is powerful medicine for those in pain.
I've seen many miracles for being at the helm of master carver digging dugouts. The Creator told me it would work, and it does. I've seen it work. I've seen it work a lot. So I'm not afraid to say that I'm changing some lives. Yeah, most definitely.
Apprentice Loris Patterson-Smith is one of those people. He's from the Carcross-Takish First Nation and never learned the ancient tradition until now.
Really important in our culture to know this type of stuff. And it's something that's slowly disappearing, but with Wayne traveling around and teaching everybody, I don't think it will disappear now.
He says working under Price has inspired him to pursue his passion for carving.
Starting on this job, I think it really pushed me towards carving. I think I'm going to continue it.
It's satisfying, like just seeing like the grain come down, seeing each chip fall away, and yeah, it's fun.
Champaign and Ajiac apprentice Jay Reed barely carved before working with Price. He's pleasantly surprised by how much progress was made in such a short span of time.
From having like all of us some of us have never touched a knife before, to building a canoe is pretty insane.
He says working on the dugout helped him reconnect with his Tlingit heritage.
Well, there's so much history in canoes. Like, it's been a part of like the coastal life. Like, every day was for the canoe, basically.
Building a dugout like this takes time, and there's still much to do. Price and the apprentices will finish as much as they can this week before the dugout is stored for the winter. Next spring, Price will travel back to the Yukon to finish the job. He and others will then travel on the dugout from Haines, Alaska to Juneau for a Tlingit gathering and celebration. The apprentices have also committed to going on a long journey with Price on the dugout they helped create.
It's been proven to me many times that the Pacific Northwest's culture and art has been our ally since for 10,000 years and time immemorial. Why should we ever doubt it? It's going to take care of us today, take care of us tomorrow, and into the future as well.
Can I get a hoo-ha? Hoo-ha! 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 Hoo-ha!
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Haines Junction.
After spending years living on the streets as a drug user, a Yukon man made a name for himself through his stunning wood carvings and engravings. As Sarah Connors tells us, art and a little help from his community helped him get clean while discovering his full potential.
A few years ago, Thomas Fawcett was a drug addict living on the streets of Vancouver. Now he's a highly regarded carver.
Still has some cracks, but I got a lot of cracks too.
Fawcett is a carver for Carcross and Takish First Nation. He works alongside master carver Keith Wolf-Smarch, helping with totem poles and pieces like this caribou. He's also a talented engraver.
You have to heat it up with a blowtorch till it glows red.
It's a career path the Tlingit man never thought possible. Fawcett grew up in BC, though his mother is from the Yukon First Nation. After an operation left him in extreme pain several years ago, Fawcett turned to drugs. He eventually found himself living on Vancouver's notorious East Hastings Street.
And I got addicted to heroin and meth. And then you just kind of wind up on the street because you don't spend any money on anything else but that.
He says the experience made him lose hope.
I was ready to commit suicide. I was in so much pain and suffering.
Suicidal and with nowhere to go, Fawcett went to his mother's First Nation in 2016. He spent a summer working in the carving shed, where his talent led to the First Nation putting him through art school in BC at age 42.
I never thought I'd ever go back to school. I always thought that, that was out of reach for me.
Afterwards, the nation offered him a full-time carving job. He says the work has helped him remain drug-free for 5 years.
Doing this art is, my mind just turns off and the clock just disappears. And by the time it's like, oh, I'm like, wow, it's time to go home. And I don't really want to go home. I want to keep carving, right? So we're just doing it on birch. And
now he wants to bring back traditional Northwest art to the community.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite piece.
Like this raven rattle.
If you can make a raven rattle, you're a carver, because they're really complicated, but they're always the same.
He also wants to give back to the First Nation that's helped him, like providing carving lessons to anyone who's willing to learn.
This is how you do it the right way. Just remember that.
While Fawcett says some days are still a struggle, his community and his job give him strength to keep on the right track.
It's really good healing. It's therapy. And it's healed me so much from all the things that all the trauma that I've had and stuff in my life.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Carcross.
All right, we need to take a short break, but coming up, a look back at a woman who made her film debut at the Vancouver International Film Festival. Welcome back. A Yukon woman made her film debut last year at the Vancouver International Film Festival. Sarah Connors gives us an inside look of the short film Kiri and the Girl, as well as the touching story behind it.
It's time to heal. It's up to us to have something put aside for her.
On Thursday, short film Kiri and the Girl premiered at the Vancouver International Film Festival. It's the first film written and co-produced by Kwanlundun First Nation member Kiri Green, a story loosely based on her life as a 60 Scoop survivor. The film follows a young Indigenous girl named Kiri who loses her mother and reconnects with her in the spirit world.
Even though I didn't lose my mother in my life, that was a symbolic of me losing my culture, and through, young Kiri's exploration of powwow community and discovering her culture and her cultural artwork, she really finds herself again.
Green grew up in BC, away from her Yukon First Nations roots. She says working on the film helped her feel closer to her Indigenous culture.
With the 60 Scoop, that connection was broken, and you really have to fight for it to regain it yourself.
Green also makes an appearance in the film as Kiri's mother.
I come to her in spirit form and dance with her and reconnect with her. Just, I think to show, that we still have ties to those ancestors in the spirit world, and they're always looking out for us.
You can watch Kiri and the Girl online through the Vancouver International Film Festival's website.
Where did you go? Do you want to see?
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A 4-part TV series with new insights into how the province of British Columbia was formed is now airing on the Knowledge Network. APTN's Tina House shows us why that matters to Indigenous people there.
British Columbia, a province with a rich and diverse past that is now being showcased in a 4-part series called British Columbia, An Untold History.
British Columbia is truly a very recent experiment.
It's really only 150 years old.
Whether it was the fur trade or the gold rush,
people came here to chase their dreams.
It's a place where you could do that.
It was the promised land, and to some extent it still is a kind of promised land for a lot of people.
Producer Lena Minifee says, as an Indigenous person growing up, she wasn't taught in school a lot of what the series talks about, and says it's time to reveal what really happened.
The reason I wanted to be involved is because nothing has been sort of this expansive and this deep within BC history and inclusive. I'm always into really looking at things through a multi-narrative lens. That's how stories actually are made, by seeing everyone's seat around the fire, because everyone has a story to contribute and to add.
Over 70 interviews were conducted across the province, and 10,000 archives were utilized to create the 4-part series, with each part exploring different topics, showcasing a vast array of perspectives on how BC came to be.
Although Indigenous people have been living here for millennia, if we're going to tell the origin story of what we call British Columbia, we need to go back to one event, the Fraser Canyon War.
I'm really privileged to have the time to read through all these stories and sort of dig in and see all these archives. And I think we're on a momentum and a change for the future of making sure that we represent our communities.
British Columbia, An Untold Story, made its premiere on the Knowledge Network on October the 12th, and it's being streamed on their website. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Alanis Obomsawin has received a long list of awards over her distinguished career, and last year the Abenaki filmmaker was honored once again, this time with the 13th Glenn Gould Prize at a ceremony that lit up the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. Elena McDougall has that story.
And I think she's really inspiring the next generation of Indigenous filmmakers and the past generations as well.
It was a captivating tribute and evening for Alanis Obomsawin, with the facade of the Royal Ontario Museum illuminated in tribute to the acclaimed artist, and the Glenn Gould Foundation awarded her a $100,000 prize.
For winning the prestigious Glenn Gould Prize.
The Glenn Gould Prize recognizes a unique lifetime of enriching the human condition through the arts. Obomsawin is known for her films Kanesatake, 270 Years of Resistance, The Incident at Restigouche, and recently her short film To Honor Murray Sinclair debuted at the Toronto International Film Festival. Reflecting on her work, Obomsawin said times have changed.
It's a very, very, very different time. It's nice for me to see and hear Canadians in general being very curious and really want to see justice to our people. And so there's a feeling of being welcome everywhere. So it's a big change.
When she sees the work young Indigenous artists are completing, Obomsawin said she feels confident about the future.
It's very, makes me feel less worry. So I say, oh, when I die, there's all these young people that are going to take over. They are already, and it's a very comforting feeling for me to see that. And I'm amazed about what everybody's doing.
She presented Ojibwe documentarian Sarah Anderson Gardner with the Glenn Gould Protégé Award for her film Becoming Nakaset.
It's a very big honor, and I feel very grateful, and there's honestly not a lot of words for how I feel right now.
Métis filmmaker Terrell Calder premiered her light show, Seeds, the art and life of Alanis Obomsawin on the museum's facade. Seeds paid stunning tribute through animation and Obomsawin's music, which could be heard on a Toronto street following the ceremony.
Seeds, the art of Alanis Obomsawin will run nightly to October 17th from 8 to 10 p.m. with 3 shows on the hour. Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Toronto.
All right, we need to take one more break, but still to come, we'll show you a story about Ojibwe Spirit horses in Ontario. Stay tuned. Welcome back. An Indigenous organization has taken over a 160-acre farm in the west of Ottawa. A reconciliation rock trail, Ojibwe Spirit horses, and Indigenous art store are all part of it. APTN's Fraser Needham explains.
The Mataoki farm sits on traditional Algonquin land south and west of downtown Ottawa. Mataoki means share the land in Algonquin. It was taken over by the organization Indigenous Experiences earlier this month. Trina Mather-Samard says it's all about the connection to the land.
But we did really want to find a location that allowed us to have more of that connection to the land and really be able to share our culture and build our organization in new ways. So we started kind of looking at farm properties and came across this was the former Lone Star Ranch here in Ottawa.
The farm's first major event is the Tatwagi, or Autumn Festival, which got underway recently.
We also have a celebration stage. We are doing the Thanksgiving address, the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving address. We're also doing a Three Sisters corn, beans, and squash play, along with a powwow dance performance. So again, you know, celebrating some of those harvest activities.
One of the highlights of the festival are the Ojibwe Spirit horses. They're native to North America and existed on the continent prior to colonization. They were close to extinction in the late 1970s. Rhonda Snow is an Ontario artist. She and a handful of others made it a lifelong passion to revive the breed.
And when I was a young girl,
I sat around the staircases of the loggers' houses and listening to the stories of the little ponies, and I was so shy I just hid there waiting for my girlfriend to come out and play. And I heard about these little tiny horses that used to live in the woods and in the bush, and I thought someday I'm going to find them.
Snow would eventually end up owning her own herd of spirit horses, and at one point had as many as 60. She says the horses managed to survive post-colonial extinction, making them a symbol of Indigenous resilience.
Just like the Indigenous people's cultures were stripped from them, the native ponies, their ways of being with their families and herds were stripped from them also. And they, just because they're little, doesn't mean they're mighty. It's the littlest things in nature that are sometimes the most important that get stepped on. And these little ponies did, and so did the culture of the people, the language.
The Fall Festival wraps up this coming weekend. Mather Simard says plans are already in the works to hold a winter festival in early December. I'm Fraser Needham for APTN News, Ottawa.
An exhibit at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic in Halifax is celebrating the many ways the Mi'kmaq continue to be unique, even after 300 years of colonization in the region. Angel Moore reports.
The new exhibit is called Don Meg Delgeg Nuwaldiek. It translates into English, How Unique We Are. Displays show the strength of Mi'kmaq culture and treaty relationships.
We have panels on evolution of the culture. We have panels on recreation, economic activity, water protectors, rights and responsibility, as well as the truth about different environmental impacts and how those impact our lives.
The youth of Pictou Landing First Nation built and painted this boat to share their connection to the water. Historian and guest curator Selena Kemp is from the Millbrook First Nation. She hopes the project inspires cultural pride because it was lacking when she went to school.
There was almost no representation of Mi'kmaq culture, and often when there was representation, it very much placed us in the past. And so this exhibit provides viewers with the opportunity to learn about the Mi'kmaq, not only of the past, but the Mi'kmaq of today.
The exhibit begins with a projection highlighting the connection to the land and water, featuring objects and artifacts of the past that inspired the present, such as the hockey stick. This small canoe and doll were created in the 19th century to trade with early Europeans.
One of the things that the Mi'kmaq adapted post-colonization was the creation of commodity art. And this is very much for the purpose of selling souvenir art to the many visitors to this land.
The lobster spear is no longer used, but the tradition remains strong.
And that was the concept of how wonderfully unique the Mi'kmaq continue to be even after all of this time.
The exhibit reveals Mi'kmaq culture of the past and the future, and it will run until next year. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabukduk, also known as Halifax.
That's all we have for you tonight. Once again, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.